For the top stories in this news edition, hello, welcome to ETV News. With the news, I'm Shamal Islam. State-owned and private media houses vow to discharge their responsibilities for the peaceful conduct of the upcoming 6th general elections Ethiopia is set to hold in mid-2021. Talking to ETV, the media houses promise to serve all political parties equally as per the time they will be granted to introduce their policies and strategies in their campaign for the election. Solomon Danya has more.
Ethiopia, home for more than 100 million people, hasn't ever had a free and fair election that was concluded peacefully. Many agree with the fact that previous elections in the country have either been rigged or were just simply formalities. The 6th general election the country is set to hold in mid-2021 is hoped to pave the way for people to exercise their democratic rights through voting their government in a ballot box. As media is an integral part of the conduct of a free, fair and democratic election, state-owned and private media houses vow to genuinely play their part in the upcoming general elections.
I truly believe that media houses, either private or state-owned, should discharge their responsibilities by treating all political parties equally in their election campaign. All should be non-partisan to enable political parties to use their time effectively so that they could reach the wider public. This election will determine the fate of the country. The mess that we have been through will only be set right if we will manage to conduct a free, fair and peaceful election. And the media has a huge role in this regard. Our media house is ready to discharge its responsibility.
There should be the zeal from the media house to play a decisive role in the peaceful conduct of the upcoming general elections. We all should be ready to see the first ever free and fair election in this land.
All media outlets should report based on credible information responsibly, and those who run the election should organize a temporary media center where journalists can easily get information that could save us from propagating fake news and speculations.
As per the schedule of the National Electoral Board of Ethiopia, political parties will kick off media campaigns as of the coming February.
The Tigray Interim administration said the relief and emergency activities are going well despite the rampant baseless disinformation. CEO of the Interim administration, Mulu Negga, expressed there is a huge demand in humanitarian assistance. Goshu Melissa has more from ENA.
In an exclusive interview with ENA, Tigray Interim administration, CEO Mulu Negga said his administration is progressing well to achieve all the priorities set in the short and long-term plans of the region. He stressed that there is very huge demand in humanitarian assistance.
The relief and the emergency activities are working well in the region. We have already started providing food supply to the needy population at all levels. And we have agreed with the responsible federal government sectors to speed up and to strengthen this activity, because this is one of the priority areas, because people should get food and all basic necessities. So in this regard, the flow is very good, but the only thing is to strengthen, I think, the distribution to all waradas and cities. So this is also going well, and we'll strengthen this activity until we address all the population in the region.
With regard to the public support and engagement with the interim administration, Mulu said the response of the population is very encouraging.
We have been engaged in public dialogue in many parts of the region. So I think the response of the population, the public, is very, very encouraging. I think they have been waiting for the new administration. And in our all discussions, the people has condemned the evil activities of the TPLF regime, especially in attacking the National Defense Force. This was totally condemned by the public.
According to him, the federal government is fully committed to provide the required support for the interim administration.
With regard to the support in general from the federal government, for example, in terms of humanitarian assistance, in terms of recovery, rehabilitation, and in terms of the budget, I think the commitment of the federal government is very, very highly appreciated, because we will not have a problem in this regard, because the federal government is committed to provide the required budget for the region. Especially, they support the interim administration to operate fully in the region.
The CEO pointed out that disarming illegally armed groups in parts of the public is also going well. It is to be recalled that the government of Ethiopia has been providing relief food and material support for persons in need of assistance in Tigray regional state through the National Disaster Risk Management Commission.
Ethiopia's Transport Minister Dagmawit Moges discussed with two Chinese diplomats on ways of further strengthening bilateral cooperation with an emphasis on railway projects. The cooperation on railway projects was one of the areas that requires strengthened bilateral cooperation among the two countries, said Dagmawit after a meeting with Zhao Zhiyuan, the newly appointed Chinese ambassador to Ethiopia, and Liu Yu, Minister Counselor for Economic and Commercial Affairs of China to Ethiopia. Ethiopia and China have developed strong cooperation in the development of the railway sector in the East African country, including the Ethio-Djibouti Standard Gauge Railway and the Addis Ababa Light Railway Transit Project. In September this year, the Ethio-Djibouti Railway Management disclosed over 51% increase in revenue during the first half of 2020, despite the difficulties brought by the COVID-19 pandemic, the railway's managing entity said on Friday, Xinhua reported.
በተለይ ከ4 አመት ወዲህ የመጡ ለውጦች አሁን በ4 አመት የተሰራው ስራ ወደ ኋላ ባሉት አመታት ቢሰራ ምን ያህል ትሆን ነበር?
ደስ የሚሉ ጅምሮች አሉ። ውስጥ ለውስጥም ስፓልት ተሰርቷል። ቀዲዳ ጋሚላ አሸማሸሚቱ ማነ በጅንጉና
Welcome back. Addis Ababa Deputy Mayor Ababa said it's high time to keep in pace with technological advancement that help modernize the bureaucracy system. This remark came in the inauguration event of Information Technology Centers in Addis Ababa. Kasawan Jane had the details on that.
Ethiopia strives to modernize its bureaucratic system underpinning with technology advancement. Information and communication technology centers are thus being constructed in Addis Ababa as part of the initiative. Kirkos, Arada and Kolfe Qaranio subsidiaries got the opportunity today, getting the green light to accessing information and communication technology centers. The information and communication technology infrastructures were built at a total cost of 294 million baht to provide network services to 18 waradas. During the inaugural ceremony, Addis Ababa Science and Technology Agency Director General Abraham Sarmolo stated that the development of infrastructure will significantly reduce labor and time consumption.
Within this project, the infrastructure includes internet, surveillance cameras, Wi-Fi services and a ranging queue system. The project is believed to secure email exchanges and hold video-assisted meetings for 2,000 officials and executive officers in the city.
Addis Ababa Deputy Mayor Ababa said it is high time to keeping in pace with technological advancement that help modernize the bureaucratic system.
This project that has been inaugurated today has great significance to our city, especially to the residents, whom we promised to further ensure modern service, help prevent corruption, fast and reachable service. As technology has paramount importance to bring the world together, the city administration will prioritize to make that happen, modernizing its working environment and make the city smart. And this is one way to succeed our prosperity path.
Meanwhile, State Minister for the Ministry of Innovation and Technology, Ahmadin Mohammed, said the ministry is working on a strategy to ensure that the government services and business systems to be supported by technology in selected cities, including Addis Ababa.
These days, questions of good governance can only be addressed in technology-enabled services. So, this project is part of the government's initiative to scale up its service sectors in line with the interests of customers.
Certificates of recognition were issued to subsidiaries, waradas and institutions that contributed to the realization of the projects.
Foreign media outlets that are still propagating erroneous information about Ethiopia clearly show the whole world the fact that they can't report objectively and professionally. Professor of Political Science, International Relations and Global Mass Media, Brooke Hailu, made this remark in an interview with ETV English. He reiterates unreliable information source as well as preconceived and prejudiced expectations that the TPLF junta would win the battle against the incumbent are some of the driving factors behind the wrong narratives. Shifar Alaukau has interviewed the professor.
Ethiopian authorities have time and again explained the purpose of the law enforcement operation in the Ethiopian Tigray state, which the government was forced to act when the TPLF junta had stabbed the North Command in the back. Instead of reporting realities on the ground, most of the international media outlets keep telling the world a distorted image of developments in Ethiopia. ETV has approached the distinguished political scientist and expert in international mass media, Professor Brooke Hailu, asking for his views in this regard.
As to the foreign media, it seems really, I would say, it was not well covered in a very objective and professional way. As media and journalist people, they need to cover both sides as to what the Ethiopian government is saying and as to what the opposition is saying. In that regard, it means they have failed. They have failed to report objectively. All this has a reason. There was a certain expectation in outcome, I would say. The expectation of the foreign media especially was that the former ruling party of Ethiopia, the TPLF, would win the war in a very dramatic way. And they were even expecting it, saying that they are battle hardened, they had 40 plus years of experience, and they were expecting that the federal government will be weakened and even maybe lose. I think that was a shock therapy in a way. Their expectation was, the outcome was totally different.
A bunch of authorities and reporters who made a living out of the sheer dependence on the TPLF clique for the past 3 or so decades were sources for these foreign media outlets.
And also, when we talk about the foreign media, the guys who are said to be authorities on Ethiopia, we could name them by names, who even made a career out of reporting and writing about Ethiopia and Ethiopian politics and the Horn for the last 35, 40 years. They were always looked up as a source, as a source of analysis, as a source of this. And guess what? Well, you don't have to guess, actually. The saddest part is this few people who are always quoted by this, and I don't want to name names, the Western newspapers and medias. Their expectation will be TPLF would win. And also what we shouldn't forget is that they had a 35 to 40 years connection with the TPLF people. I mean, there was a certain bond, and they had always their sources from inside and their expectation that they would win. So when they were asked, interviewed, or when they wrote about the current politics in Ethiopia, what happened in the north, when the northern Ethiopian army, the northern command was attacked, they only wanted to see things from their own point of view. So by the way, that had really resulted in their miscreditation. They lost credibility, I would say.
The professor also urges the Ethiopian government to do more public relations work as frequently and quickly as possible, especially to the Western world. The scholar argues that quietness leaves a space for those elements adept at interpreting things in empty air the way they want.
2020 will definitely be a year to remember, undoubtedly due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, even with the pandemic, life went on and other events took place. CGTN Africa compiled some of the significant events that occurred in and around the continent during the last 12 months. Let's take a listen. with a 12-month story in pictures around the continent. Finally, Auckland, New Zealand was one of the first places in the world to ring in 2021 with a dazzling fireworks display and a light show from its iconic Sky Tower and harbour. While many countries restricted gatherings and cancelled their traditional New Year celebrations due to the coronavirus pandemic, Auckland's residents were able to ring in the New Year to watch the show in person. Jocelyn Bazaha tells us more from Sky News and other sources.